Yeah, we're recording.
Okay, I'm Ron Shuff, known as Big Shuff, and I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, February 12th, 1945. And my parents was Clyde and Jewel. At the time I was born, I believe my father had bought a little grocery store in Bessemer, Alabama. I'm not sure if he was the owner, but he certainly was the manager. And he eventually sold that and bought a grocery store in Hueytown, Alabama. And so previous he had worked in the ore mines in Muskota, where he was ran a trip car. In other words, he drove the cars down into the mines and loaded the ore and carried them out. But anyway, during an accident, he cut off a couple of his fingers when he was coupling the cars. And I think that kind of ended his career in the coal mine, the ore mines. Mother was a stay-at-home at the time. Mom, I have a sister that's 2 years older and a brother that's 2 years younger. And we lived in a little two-bedroom house in Hueytown, Alabama that my dad had built on some land that he had bought from my grandmother. And so she lived like 2 doors down from us. So that was my early years. I remember that in the house that he built, he put in indoor plumbing. And that was a real challenge for me as a baby. I was afraid I was going to fall in that toilet. But that's only early childhood memories I have of that, living in that place. He eventually, when he opened the store in Hueytown, it had an attachment house that was attached to the store. So we lived in the house, and the store was right next door, and my mother worked in the store as well. The big part of our lives, even early on, was centered around the church. There was a Baptist church in Hueytown, and we were there Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday nights. I remember we had a graded choir program. Probably from the time that I was 4 or 5, I was in a church choir. They had a preschool choir. I remember that we wore these little white robes that parents made, and it went down to about your waist and things, but made us feel like we were really big, and it was kind of cool. And so we had music in my family from as far back as I can remember. My mother played guitar and had been a recreational musician and had her own little radio show before she married my dad with her brother in Birmingham. She called it folk music. I would say it was country music, but and her brother and her sister, and they'd get together and play what I called, what is now more commonly referred to as bluegrass. And bluegrass involved a lot of hymns as well. So music was a big part of my early life. And of course, living next to the store, Mother and Dad were just about always working. We played in the backyard and climbed trees, and eventually had a basketball goal, and it just played in the backyard. And across the street was a big field where all the big kids used to play football. It was a neighborhood football game just about every weekend. And we always liked to sneak across over there and play. And I could just remember they were a lot bigger, and they did not mind hitting the little kids, but it was fun. And the church being a big part of our lives, I joined the RAs when I got old enough which is like a Christian Boy Scout thing. So I remember I always wanted to try to you pass different ranks, and I always wanted to be the best that I could be. And so you had to learn scripture verses and learn about mission work, and it was academically challenging. We didn't have a TV early on, so we'd read the funny paper. That's what we call the comics, and so that's in the evening. We'd read the comics, and I remember liking to read biographies, so that was early entertainment. So you had music and sports, and then you just family time in the evening, just reading books or whatever. Of course, we played checkers and a few games that was fun. Dominoes was a fun game. But that's our early childhood. That's some of the few things I remember. I remember getting my first bicycle. It was way too big. I could barely reach the pedals. In fact, I had to climb onto the porch to climb onto the bike so I could ride downhill. And but bike riding I thought that was something really special. I guess it's about 9 or 10 when I bought my first bike. I think it was either $8 or $10. It was under $10, I know that. But I thought it was cool. It was more my size, and it had a little cut-off fender in the back, so it looked like a motorcycle. I thought I was fast, and that was a lot of things. But we lived about a mile from the church, so when they have activities at the church or after school, and then I would run home. Walked to the elementary school, had a little shortcut through some wooded area that you had to jump over a little stream and stuff. And I can remember sometimes when it was raining, we'd end up going in, we'd be covered with mud and dirty, but that was just the way. And since we had the grocery store, we made our sandwiches. Either in the morning, it'd be a bologna sandwich was the most popular. You had bologna and cheese and lunch meats, and so most of the time I carried my lunch to school. It was something special if you had got to buy the hot meals at the school, but on Fridays we tried to do it because I think it's Fridays we had chili, and that was a real treat. As I continued to grow up, of course I started taking piano lessons. The piano teacher just lived down the block, down the street, so I could just walk down there and take lessons. My sister was really good, and I tried to keep up with her. No way, I just didn't. I didn't have the discipline, or the problem I had is that they always said I kept adding extra notes or playing it differently than it was written and playing it too fast. I guess I was marching to my own drum at that time, even at an early age. But we had an upright piano that was fun to bang on, and I can remember even before I started taking lessons, so just sitting down there and banging on it, and I thought I was playing a symphony or something. It was really just banging, but you learn little combinations and things that you like, and you could express your emotion, feelings on the piano, as bad as it was. As I got about 9 or 10, there was a football team called Pee Wee football that always practiced across from the church. So I used to try to go up there, and it was about a mile from the house, and like to watch them play. And I always wanted to play. My first big Christmas present, I wanted a football suit. I looked in the Sears catalog and picked out helmet, shoulder pads, football pants, the jersey, the whole thing. And I think it was probably ran less than $15 total, but I had figured it all up. That was my Christmas present. Well, I got it. And I guess I was, by the time I was 10, I'd wear my uniform and go up there. And one day they said, "Well, you want to play?" I said, "Yes, I want to play." My mother already told me I couldn't, but I did want to play, so they put me in at a guard. Well, one of the coaches said, "Son, you're just too little to play guard. You need to be back here. You need to be a running back or something." So anyway, so my mother found out I was sneaking up there on the football team because everybody knew everybody in the town. The coach was, all the coaches were members of our church. And so anyway, and most of the kids on the team were from our church as well. But anyway, they talked her into letting me stay on. I promised I wouldn't get hurt. And I didn't. But it was, since they both worked on Saturdays when our games were, they couldn't go to our games. But first game I ever got into, excuse me.
Bless.
The first game they ever got into, our team was pretty good. So I was second string, so they let me go in. And they gave me the ball, and I ran a touchdown. I wasn't, they opened up the hole, I ran the right hole the way they told me to, and scored a touchdown. So I come home and told my dad. Anyway, they couldn't believe it. But anyway, I was hooked on football at that point. So that was a good memory. So as I got a little bit older, I liked to run. So I used to challenge myself to make sure I could run all the way to church and then all the way back without stopping. And it took me a little while to work up to that, but I got where I could do it, and then I would get where I would kind of time myself to see if I could do it faster. And nobody was asking me to do that. They just, I was self-motivated at that point. And continued in the church music and stuff, and I was taking piano. So we had like a Sunday school class, a department of 9 through 12, it's called junior class, and the junior department. So we'd go in and we'd have like a little warm-up scripture reading, prayer, and we'd sing. Well, it happened, I guess it's 10 years old. They didn't have anybody to play piano, so they asked me to play the piano. Well, I wasn't too good, but they would give me the name of the song a week ahead, so I could always know what the songs are going to be, so I'd have all week to practice. So that was my first, I guess, performance experience, and it was fun. And then in the church choirs, I probably got some solos and things that I got because music was easy for me. I don't think I had a particularly better voice than anybody else, but I could certainly sing on pitch. And so that was kind of my routine in life between piano lessons, playing football, going to school. At school, we always played. We played football, basketball, kickball, and I think it was in the 6th grade, we had a PE teacher said, "We're going to start a track team." So, of course, I wanted to be on it. Of course, we had a softball team too. I played on that. Anything ball, I wanted to play. But we started a track team, and so they took the 4 fastest guys, and I was about the 4th one. We had a relay team, and so we practiced our handoffs and stuff. And I can remember going to, I think it was Legion Field in Birmingham, and racing, that was the biggest stadium in Alabama at the time, and running at 6th grade competition relays. I don't remember how we did, but it was fun. And I liked having the little track uniform. I thought that was hot stuff. But, and then at the church, they had what they call memory drills. This is where you compete on learning Bible verses, and then you would, they'd call out a Bible verse, and they call it sword drill. You'd have to look it up. And the first one to find it, put their finger on it, you step forward, and if you had it correctly and read it correctly, then the one that did that the most was the winner. Well, being competitive that I was, I wanted to be the best. So I think it was, maybe I was 11 years old, and I went to state competition. And I think I finished third, second or third, which was pretty amazing. You know, people all over the state were competing. And by the time I was 12-year-old, I went to state again and got into the finals, and I lost. But it was a big accomplishment because you got a free trip to camp, summer camp, and I got 2 years in a row, I got free trips. So it was worth all the hard work. But the good part is that I was memorizing a lot of good scriptures that I still remember. Going from, at that time we had an elementary school that went through the 7th grade. When I got in the 7th grade, my dad had sold the store, and he'd sold it once before, and went into construction. At that point, I won't tell you much about him as I do about me, because he probably finished the 8th grade and got started in the 9th grade. And he always talked about his early education. It was it was a company school, and it was kind of like a military school, but it's co-ed. But they'd line up every morning and they'd do hygiene. They'd all have to brush their teeth. They had inspections to make sure their hands and nails were clean, and it was a really good school. They learned poetry, and he just thrived on learning, and he was really proud of his early education. But due to family circumstances, he ended up going to work at about 15 or maybe younger, full time, and he was a grocery store delivery boy, which counts for him as affinity for owning a grocery store later on. So the first time when he sold the grocery store, he wanted to build houses. So he got his contractor's license, became a licensed electrician and a licensed plumber. And of course, I ended up going to work with him as I got a little bit older, and I was his gopher boy. Somebody needs to crawl up on the house and push a pipe up through the floor, or run some wires through the attic, pull the wires. Those are the things that I did, and later on learned how to wire the switch boxes and stuff that I did on a regular basis. I just wish I'd really paid attention and remembered what I had learned, because later on it would have come in handy in life. But at age 12, we moved, I think, to a little house that was closer to the church. It was a modern kind of house, and it was again, only 2 bedroom, but it had a little basement. So made it really convenient for going to football practice and playing baseball. We had, again, the church team was everything was centered around the church pretty much, and the first little league was based on the church league in the community. So, but we were real close. The church had a big playground, and we were over there on the bridle bikes over there and stay all day and do pickup games, whether it be football, softball, baseball, whatever, because all the kids in the community would rally there. So as a teenager, I went to, after I got out of elementary school, they built a new high school, really state-of-the-art high school. And so the old high school became a junior high. Well, I was in the 8th grade going into the junior high. And again, I'd already started, in 7th grade, I had started playing trombone. And so so some of those kids that had started, most of them had started in the 5th or 6th grade. But I could already read music. I picked it up really quickly. So the time I got in 8th grade, they let some of us that came out of the elementary program join the high school band. They need more marchers. And so in the 8th grade, we would actually bus over to the high school. And so I played in the high school band in the 8th and 9th grade. But we had a new chorus teacher. We never had a school chorus teacher before. And he was right out of college, and he took a liking to me, and he wanted me to play for the chorus. So I wasn't good enough to do that, but again, he would give me the songs early so I could practice them all week. I never got them perfect, but it was the fact that he challenged me was really good for me. So music was continued. We had a junior high football team. In 8th grade, again, I was not spectacular. I was still one of the top 4 or 5 fastest guys. So I made the team, and I learned the plays and stuff like that, and made second string. So we were playing a team called Oak Grove, and so they let me in. And just like in my first game in puberty, they gave me the ball. And I ran 40-yard touchdown.
Wow.
And my dad was there. So that made it a big deal. Anyway, so that was the 8th grade. I got involved in student council at that point. I was chaplain for the junior high student council. And that means I would get to read the Bible or give the prayer at the assemblies or at our meetings. And so that was the first time I ran for political office, you might call it. In the 9th grade, student council was a big deal. So I decided to run for president, and I was elected. And I took it really seriously, and because I learned a lot of leadership skills. Because the student council, the faculty would talk with the student council about activities and things that they would like to have, and where there were problems, whether it's behavioral problems in certain classes or whatever. It became a problem-solving group, and that was really special. And I continued with my church activities. And they had, when you became a teenager, you moved up into the intermediate department. And they had Bible drills similar to the junior department, but this way it was, again, who could find the scripture the fast. But they would give topics. And you would look up by topic, but you would memorize where those verses were. I think, again, being competitive, I think at 13 and 14 I went to state again. I got the free trips to camp, and that was a cool deal. And I was starting to notice girls back then too. And I remember when I was 14, I fell in love with this little girl from South Alabama at camp, which went nowhere. But I can remember what it felt like. I was just smitten. She was cute, and we hung out all week at camp. And also, when I got in the 9th grade, I started having girlfriends, and that was the nice part about the bus trips and the chorus trips, is that we used to make out on the bus, and that was pretty brave for a 14-year-old boy, you know. But that was what was going on, and so anyway, I got through the 9th grade, and the sports, I was on the track team in the 9th grade, and I wasn't fast enough to be the 100 yards or 220 yard sprinter. So they put me on the quarter mile, which I'd never run a quarter mile before, but I watched the high school guys. We worked out with them and how they ran it, and just did the best I could. Anyway, I did get to state, and I think I got 4th, and I ran it like a 56. So Jonah and Ronnie that are running the 400, you got to beat that record now that you're in the 9th grade.
That's a tough event to run. Man.
And but it was just 400 was not something I was really good at, but again, you just do the best you can, and you just challenge yourself to get better. So I get to the high school, go to Hueytown High School, this new high school, which is divided up into 3 categories. You had your kids that were not going, had a business division, and a industrial arts division, which would include mechanics and body work. You had your academics, which most kids could go to college to. Then you had your advanced academics, and they're all 3 separate buildings on the same campus. So I ended up going to the advanced academics. Don't ask me why. I guess because most of my friends there are in the band. So I was still in the band, but in the 10th grade, I was playing football. I remember when I went for the high school team, I weighed, probably didn't weigh 125 pounds sophomore year, maybe 130. But they give it to football is a big deal in our little town. But we had like 100 guys going out in 10th, 11th, 12th grade. Well, I remember I was number 96 to get a uniform. And of course, all the good uniforms were gone, and my knee pads were closer around my ankles than my knees. But I wasn't discouraged. I was on the team. And so I worked hard, probably got to like 3rd or 4th string, and you played both ways, offensive and defensive. But my speed was picking up. And at the end of the games, at the practices, we always ran laps and then sprinted in. And I got where I could keep up with the seniors. And pretty soon I was like 34th in those drills. And they started noticing me a little bit. So 10th grade, I had a choice of being in the band, marching band, or being dressing out with the varsity. There was only like 3 other sophomores that got to dress out with varsity. But I knew I wouldn't play, so I chose the band. And I still played football, I was just on the B team. And B team was really good because I got to start and got to run back kickoffs and punt returns. I don't remember how many touchdowns, but I had a bunch. Because we were playing, against guys that were the same age and size and stuff. So in the 10th grade, when you go into it was a big high school, about 1,500 people in the high school, 10 through 12. So you're a peon, but I was motivated. And my grades were never all A's, but they were mostly A's and B's. I was in the junior honor society in junior high, and I don't think I ever made it to the honor society in high school because I made a C in Latin. In academics was not I was much more focused on my church activities, my music activities, and thirdly, my sports, of course. One thing I left out that when I was 10 years old, I guess, when our church choir director and put my brother and sister and I started singing as a trio. And we'd sing 3-part harmony, and my sister played the piano. And so Mother worked with us really hard. She drove us a little bit, very precise, making sure our diction was good and people could understand our words, and we would breathe together and things like that. So pretty soon we were asked to sing a lot of church. And we'd asked to sing at other churches, and a young preacher boy who was very, very good and popular at the time was doing youth revivals, and he decided he wanted us to sing at his revivals. And of course, I think his ulterior motive may have been that my sister was really cute, and he had a crush on her, and eventually they got married, and I've only been married for about 60 years now, so I guess it ended up being a good thing.
What are your brother and sister's first names?
Cecil and Sharon. That's my brother-in-law, but he was just 20 years old and eventually graduated from Sanford.
Cecil is the preacher's name? Or Cecil is your brother's name or your brother?
He's my brother-in-law.
Okay. What was your brother's name?
Well, we called him Buddy back then. His name, we called him Judd.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was the most talented in the group. He had a great voice, and he could pick up anything and play it. And so anyway, after my sister got married and they started their family fairly soon, it left Judd and I, and so we decided that we did some duos and stuff, but then the Kingston Trio was really popular then. Folk music was coming along. So he played guitar a little bit, and I picked up a baritone ukulele, and it sounded, made a good little duo. So we would sing Kingston Trio and the Brothers Four and New Christian Minstrels. We learned all those songs, and we became, we performed a lot for civic clubs or whatever event came available. And we put a little comedy act in, and it was just slapstick, silly stuff. But we had a lot of fun, and performed at some, like student council conventions and things like that. There were talent shows. That was a lot of fun, and we did that. And mostly high school. I was in high school. And so I guess you can see that again, my life was taking shape even though I didn't know it. So when I got to high school, again, student government was interesting to me. By the time I was a senior, I did want to be president of the class of the student government, and did that and got elected. It was, I guess it's somewhat of a popularity vote, but also who knew you. And I was friendly and knew a lot of people, so I was social. But I didn't party. It was not parties. I was certainly too busy to go to parties. And, by the time I was 16, prior at my church, the choir director needed some help with the preschool choir. So he enlisted me first to play the piano for him. He says, why don't you just lead them? Well, I had to pick out the songs, teach them the songs, have them stand up and perform at the different concerts and things. So that was a good training for me. I had learned to direct music. So this little church not far outside of our community called West Highland Baptist Church. And they needed a choir director, and their pastor had seen me lead a youth rally or something, and hired me as soon as I got my driver's license. 16, I could drive over there. I made $5 a week. That'd buy my gas, so I was cool. Gas would last me all week. So that was my first paying church job. But I continued that for a long time. So I don't know how far I want to go or how in doubt, but I remember in high school, I was pretty focused and driven. And I wanted to be the best at whatever. As far as football goes, time I was a junior, I'd gotten up to 132 pounds. And I was second string. And probably wasn't going to see a lot of playing time because the guy that ran in front of me was weighed about 200 pounds. And he was they'd already taunted him to be like all-state football player stuff. Well, the day before the first game, he got hurt or got sick. Anyway, they didn't have anybody else that knew the plays that could do the stuff except me. And the coaches were just totally nervous because the whole game plan had been geared around him. So they really tried to pump me up. Okay, we need you to come through. And they're asking a lot of me, blah, blah, blah. So my first high school game, guess what? I scored my first touchdown. So it was, but I dreamed about it the night before, so I knew I was going to do one. But anyway, so I had a great game, and when he came back, they put him at a different position, and I continued to play, and that year led the team in scoring.
Wow.
But you got to remember, I was big then. I weighed 132 pounds.
Right. Yeah, big.
Yeah. Time my senior year, I got up to 138, and at that time I'd already, my speed was really picking up. My sophomore year, I tied first track meet. They let me run the 100, and I tied our fastest guy, who was a senior. We had both had the same time, which was 10.8 and 100 on a dirt track. It was a rural team we were running against. So again, it's something that I worked on. It didn't just happen. And so I had a lot of success at an early age, musically and sports-wise, and my church. Again, was very important, major part. My mother, and going back to childhood, used to, when we, even when we had TV, she would always tell us Bible stories, and in depth, Old Testament, New Testament, and she taught us Scripture, and we started to study the Bible almost every night. And it was, and I cherished that and have all my life. And the one thing is I'm telling you my life story to Samuel, is that the one thing that I can, as you get to be 70, and you look back at your life, and you realize that what you thought you were going to do is not what you ended up actually doing in most cases, but you can look back and see that God actually had a plan for your life, and you can see those little things that you thought were disconnected is actually what connected you to the life that you eventually lead and live. And